Have you ever done something bad? Something really bad? Something which you deeply, unequivocally regret because there was no other side to the situation? No slightest hint of a right or wrong? Many of you may say no, that for the most part your life has been a toss-up of morality, mostly white, maybe sometimes a little gray, but you've never seen real darkness. And in that case, this video, and Evangelion itself, is probably not for you. But for those whose lives and choices have invariably led them into the dark, those of you who've lived in the sadness of guilt and the guilt of sadness, let me preface with this. Fuck you. You might have faith in some illusory justification you've yet to find, or feel that despite having done it, you've grown far above and beyond the need for repentance, but let me be very fucking clear. You do not deserve forgiveness. You cannot deserve absolution. Deep down, you probably know it.
And why would you remember me, friend?
It doesn't take a genius to realize that something genuinely abominable does not deserve anything but the contempt they give and the regret you feel.
You got some self-loathing to do this morning, that's fine. But it ain't worth losing your hands over.
That gnawing feeling isn't some damage waiting for your repair or an aberrance you should just hope goes away. It is a rational response to a social creature's self-destruction. You are wrong, and your brain will let you know. You should feel haunted. You should feel the weight of that darkness because your victim surely did, and their loved ones surely did, and you know damn well that without the veneer of society, you'd have been long since left for dead. I say fuck you to remind you of this. We should be disgusted, and we should not forgive. But herein lies the problem. The real problem, greater than whatever sin you may have committed and greater than any pain it may have caused. You are disgusting. You are the worst. And yet, you remain. Sure, there could be some social ostracization, and if your crime trespassed society, you may have even faced imprisonment. But our natural tendency to cast out has been long since outgrown. We no longer exile, we no longer maroon. We simply have to deal with you. You have to deal with us, and you have to deal with yourself. Now what? If you haven't watched Evangelion, or if you're one friend in particular who for some reason hasn't watched the movie, please do so. Not for this video to make sense, but because it is genuinely the greatest piece of media I have ever had the pleasure of enjoying, and because if you boot up that episode 1 and you don't feel instantly grabbed, this video wasn't for you anyways. That being said, Shinji Ikari has done horrible things, undeniably. He is weak-willed when he freezes and Luciferian under the spell of wrath. He is envious in lust and a glutton for attention, but his real sin is that of greed. His uncontrollable desire for unconditional, certainly undeserved, gratitude, forgiveness, and love. When he defeats an angel threatening not just Tokyo 3, but the entire world, he revels not in knowing that he is a savior, but instead resents others for an apparent lack of appreciation. When he fails to save Rei or nearly kills Toji as a result of inaction, he locks himself away in a death spiral of self-resentment that further damages everyone around him. And when, in no uncertain terms, he masturbates to the comatose body of his friend, do I even have to explain? By all accounts, Shinji is a reclusive, impulsive, gross caricature of a man. For a pilot of the last weapon capable of defending humanity, there's really no wonder he failed. And yet, he is a 14-year-old boy. His mother died in what he thinks to be a freak accident. His father totally abandoned him, only to call him back years later as a mere tool. He lives with a woman so irresponsible she can hardly take care of herself, a roommate with tripolar disorder, and is placed into the aforementioned impossible position of mankind's only hope for survival. Does that spell a well-balanced human being? Fuck! Biologically, the kid can barely be held responsible for what he does. If that isn't a situation necessarily destined for failure, I don't know what the hell is. Here's where I'm forced to reflect on my own life. Now, I've always had this sort of autistic hyperfixation on logically backing every aspect of my life. I enjoy physics for that exact reason. The matter we see around us exists because particles exist, because fundamental forces exist, because fields exist, because... And, here's where one day I hope to step in, if the world hasn't fallen apart by then. But when on my first watch of Evangelion, I was in the process of applying this method of rationality to my life, good God, was I out of my league. I get clowned on a lot by some of my friends for having once been a Jordan Peterson friend, and all things considered, trust me, nowadays, I get it. But one idea of his always resonated quite well with me. To paraphrase heavily, because I cannot be bothered to see what he's become, I read Nietzsche when I was about 12 or 13, and it just tore me apart. It was way too early to encounter that level of existential thinking. I didn't understand what he meant by the death of God, but I felt it. And I didn't have anything to replace it with. Growing up non-religiously is something which, in retrospect, I'm quite grateful for. But back when I called Nietzsche a nihilist and Hegel, well, I didn't even know who the fuck that was, so I appreciated Peterson because I related hard. And I loved his work for its apparent emphasis on idealism. Not in the, everything's gonna be okay, we just have to buy carbon-neutral plane tickets to Bali sense, but in the, if I clean up my room, live a productive existence, and try my best, everything will be alright. Sort of way. The sense that ideas and actions shape the world around us is a powerful one, and I think that's what made a younger me both love and hate Shinji. Unlike my politically neutered, philosophically confused, relatively impoverished self, Shinji literally had it all. I loved him because, cut from the same cloth, I figured he'd weave the same tapestry of heroicism and victory that I'd for so long hoped to achieve. The potential to be a hero lurking inside the shell of a sad, scared little boy excited me, but terrified him, and I resented him for that. Fear consumed him while frustration devoured me. How could he let everyone down time and time again? And yet, I still felt for him, because Anno had crafted a mirror image of me, and I did not like what I saw. Around a year ago, I began writing what would become a 10,000 word script for a video I would never make. It was what had become my rational analysis of the meaning of life since becoming more philosophically educated. It included a fairly detailed history of metaphysics, covered the Enlightenment, and eventually led to 2 conclusions. Despite being the seemingly obvious choice, it isn't actually rational to kill yourself. And the best way to make yourself not want to is to merely try anything else. That the fight alone could make life worthwhile. Now, don't get me wrong, I still agree with these ideas for the most part, sure, but they led to a question maybe not more important, but surely just as interesting. When is struggling for the sake of itself actually justified? If I was stuck in a shitty dead-end job, forced into a work camp, or oppressed by the state, am I morally correct in simply putting my head down and working? And the conclusion I invariably came up with was, fucking no. I grew up an American, goddammit, and if the spirit of revolution hadn't been wedged down deep inside of me, I don't know what had.
Up the ra, Nigel.
If I worked at a McDonald's for pennies on the dollar, I'd get a better job. If I was shut away by my enemies, then I'd just break out. And if I was ever truly put down, then goddammit, I'd rebel until I saw a better world. But I couldn't bring myself to say so. I couldn't say that all we need, not just to live, but to live well, was to try hard, do our best, and pull ourselves up by our bootstraps, because being an American means I've just as well seen our unaffordable college, inconceivably small job market, and groceries so unaffordable we need advances just to eat. I've seen debt slavery in company towns, disabilities and families torn apart, and I've seen crabs dragging each other back into that barrel and tearing each other apart. But most horrifyingly of all, I've seen people try, really try, and still fail, because success is not guaranteed, regardless of blood, sweat, and tears. And so it was with great regret that I knew that if I was in Shinji's position, well, God knows what I would have done. Shinji did not sin and want and rage out of some great ontological evil inside, but because when he tried his very hardest to save, love, and do, it was never enough to truly live well. Similarly, Asuka did not wear a false mask of confidence, push others away, and use herself out of a devilish pride, but because her mother hung herself, leaving her with nothing but what she could scrape together. But what she managed was, quite frankly, amazing. By the time Shinji was tossed into action as a sniveling wreck, she had become a prodigious pilot, received a college degree, and garnered respect from basically everyone around her. And it fell apart all the same. Because despite how hard she had tried, and even in spite of the ground she had gained, under pressure, a mask can only hold on for so long. Her facade of ego crumbled under the weight of failure, and so too did her spirit. She was left broken by the weight of the world right alongside Shinji, expecting not the unconditional love desired by life's failures, but the good life promised to its rightful conquerors. But at the end of the day, were their actions not still terrible? Asuka was a nasty, cruel person to nearly everyone around her, and Shinji? Need I elaborate? Regardless of upbringing, locus of control, material conditions, whatever the hell you want to call it, they still hurt a lot of people. Not just each other. Their actions led to the end of the fucking world. Then again, damn near everyone in the show is horrible. Hell, I don't think there is a single truly good character in the entire show. Except Koharu, who loved unconditionally, cared for all, and was decapitated by Shinji for humanity to survive. If our survival hinges on the murder of someone so pure, is our survival worth anything in the first place? And so, it is within this context of blood, sweat, and a large emphasis on tears, that, in the end of Evangelion, after Shinji is nearly murdered in cold blood, has his near-maternal savior blown to bits right beneath him, and witnesses the mutilated corpse of his last friend, Shinji is confronted with this very question.
Eva シリーズの AT フィールドが共鳴、さらに増幅しています。サイロイドグラフ反転、自我境界が弱体化していきます。AT フィールドシンデグラフ、シンデルダウン、デジタル動画。以来怒りの息子にも委ねられたな。
Searching for an answer, the twin gods of this planet bring forth familiar visions of triumph, isolation, and self-destruction, meaningless life, Hedgehog's dilemma and outreach, false confrontation, understanding, and reactionary anger. And in this web of lies, ruined fantasy, and pain, Shinji is left with one final hope. Asuka's dream of the life she deserved may have been snuffed, but Shinji's belief of true love, of being needed, of belonging, of help, may yet exist. So he calls to the gods in hope of a savior. They answer in truth.
Then don't do anything. Don't come near me. All you ever do is hurt me.
Asuka, 助けてよ。ねえ、Asuka じゃなきゃダメなんだ。
Liar. Anyone will do.
You don't care who it is! You're afraid of me, Sato, and the first child! You're afraid of your mother and father, too! So now you come running to me!
No, I need you to help me!
That's the easiest way to keep from getting hurt! You never even loved yourself! You're all you have, and you never even learned to like yourself!
Pathetic.
助けて。誰か僕をいないだから僕を助けて。助けてよ。僕を助けてよ。一人にしないで。僕を見捨てないで。僕を殺さないで。
No.
The divine construct of Asuka tells Shinji that despite his wishes, his cries, his own perceived efforts, he had never loved himself. The ultimate hypocrite, he begs for the unconditional love he craves. His circumstances, his actions, he has culminated into the crumpled, groveling heap at the feet of his last bastion of hope. He begs. It tells him no.
誰も分かってくれないんだ。
You never understood anything.
嫌なことは何にもない揺らぎのない世界だと思っていたのに
That's because you thought that everyone else felt the same as you do.
裏切ったら僕の気持ちを裏切ったんだ
You misunderstood from the very beginning. You just believed what you wanted to believe.
He will not receive his desired love because it cannot be guaranteed. People are too different, too difficult to truly understand. Our egos, these AT fields, are walls impenetrable by humans. Shinji asks the gods directly if he has a place in the world. If someone may love him for who he is, what he could be, and what he has done, if all his effort, character, and self could ever be appreciated in his life worth anything. The gods remain silent. So, with one final pain cry and power unspeakable, Shinji implements instrumentality. He tears down the walls of ego people had hid behind for so long, where they knew each other not as the secret guarded at the center of these walls, but as the holes they drill for others to see. Humanity would become one thinking, inanimate, unconditionally loving mass, whether they wanted to or not.
That I could turn back time 'cause now the guilt is all mine. Can't live without the trust from those you love. I know we can't forget the past. You can't forget love and pride. Because of that, it's killing me inside.
As the world was reduced to LCL, with their souls returning to their collective origin, all except one were destined to such a fate: Shinji's father, Gendo. Gendo Ikari is an incredibly simple character in that his sole motivation is to reunite with his wife and Shinji's mother, Yui, whose soul rests inside of Unit 1. At the same time, it takes an ancient prophecy, alien biogenesis, and the ire of just about everyone he's ever known to complete such a mission. Gendo is everything Shinji could have been given a goal. Rather than wander in aimless misery, he focused all his energy into one obsessive end, not worrying about ethics or pushing others away or even harming his own son. He was willing to bring about Armageddon to achieve what he knew was selfish. And despite his efforts, he was ultimately rejected by what is, at least in part, a representation of Yui herself. Gendo too is confronted by Lilith and Adam, but he does not resist, question, or have anything even resembling a dialogue as Shinji does. He's lectured in the pain he has caused, and he does not disagree, because even Yui concludes that Gendo has failed. Despite his own flawed upbringing, he is a main reason not just Shinji, but the entire cast has reacted in the negative ways they have. He is one of their material conditions, and he is just as cruel. In his final moments, he is consumed by the monstrous thing his blind obsession has led to, without a soul to return to its creator. And despite our environment, the film tells us, our actions are still ours. Our actions can be vile, and those actions are unforgivable. Gendo's death and entire arc fascinate me, not just in its tragedy, but also in the confirmation of the film's horrifying revelation. The world is cruel, and we are shaped by its cruelty, yet we are held responsible. Gendo is a psychopathic manipulator, Asuka an egomaniacal bastard child, and Shinji a weak, disgusting pervert. While Gendo was most likely excluded from instrumentality due to more personal grievances, all the other fuck-ups of the world are scooped right up, because, Shinji realizes, only in instrumentality can they be truly forgiven. And yet, he recognizes that something feels wrong. If everyone's the same, what does unconditional love mean? Of yourself? Of some unfeeling, inhuman mass? Is it the ultimate dream of ego or some Lovecraftian delusion? Whatever the case, he knows that it's wrong. His animated world shifts into what we recognize as real. signaling the constructed nature of this place. He's as real to us as we are to him, and yet, in his mind, those he claims to love reside there, in this higher dimensional fantasy world he seeks to recreate. In a monologue on dreams, we get to see Shinji's psyche at work. Lilith and Adam ask him if he likes what the world's become, and he rightfully says that he doesn't know. It's different from his world of AT fields and separation, but being unable to differentiate one person from another, he can't find the happiness he so desires. Lilith tells Shinji that he can only find happiness in his dreams, and that he must be in one. But Shinji tells him that he can't be. Happiness still eludes him. And in one of my favorite quotes of the movie, Lilith tells Shinji that he's used this tailor-made fantasy to get revenge against reality. He did not want to spread this love out of a self-expressed desire to distribute goodness, but out of a selfish desire to be forgiven of the unforgivable and loved by those who had refused. Shinji asks her what's wrong with having such a fantastical world, and Rei tells him why he isn't happy. He's not in a dream. He's in a substitute for reality. A dream is to one day be in a better place. That one day, when the dust has settled, the tears have been dried, and humanity can choose to forgive in spite of all reason, that we can have a better reality. Shinji asks Lilith where he can find such dreams, such true happiness, and in turn she replies that it's just beyond reality. Shinji then asks where his reality lies, and Rei tells him it's where his dreams end. That when he stops just hoping for such a reality, let alone living in a twisted, hedonistic version of it, he can find his reality, what truly could be, and he will find that it's beyond what these visions could have ever imagined.
So, 僕の夢はどこ？
それは現実の続き。
僕の現実はどこ？
それは夢の終わりよ。
In a final monologue to the gods, Shinji has resolved himself to ending instrumentality. He wants to return people to the walled-off hordes they once were, despite the pain and isolation, because he knows only then that his happiness may be manifest. The world may have been cruel to him, and in turn he may have been just as evil, but he knows that that's the only way reality can be, well, real. And yet, he's still scared. He remarks on his loneliness, his lack of belonging, and wonders how he can go on. Dreams, they tell him, if he lives not only with them, with the hope that one day people may understand each other, love each other, out of the goodness of their hearts, but with making his dreams a reality, he can find happiness. His perceived efforts to be loved, although very real, were never honest. As the construct of Asuka said, anyone would do. He merely wanted people, anyone, for the acceptance and positive emotions he could use them for, not out of a genuine love for who they are. If he made his own dreams manifest, although his ambitions may yet fail and his hope and love crumble, it will have been honest, and it will have been enough. But those dreams are just a facade, Shinji remarks, a self-serving assumption. It could never last forever. I'm always betrayed eventually. They abandoned me. And yet, in spite of this rational, realistic fear, Shinji still wants to see them. Eventually, he knows, his dreams will fall, and a better reality along with them. But in the moments they stand strong, it will have been enough. As the god beings fall apart, with Unit 1, its harbinger, fully rejecting their calling, the souls are returned to the Sea of LCL, which once held their form, and which is destined to become human once more. Adam tells Shinji that reality, the manifest hope of a kinder humanity, can be found within places unknown, that even dreams themselves can be found inside. Hope within love, within manifest good, and that truth lies within our hearts. Because despite the cruelness of the world, we are not animals. We may yet try our best and fall once more back into the miserable depths, but it is foolish to think we die without trying our damnedest to crawl back out. When the material world pushes, we may yet struggle against it, push back, with new visions having the potential to change mankind. Our power to envision can create our own future, and while it's not guaranteed and will almost certainly fail, our ideas and loved ones betraying us alike, we know that this is the only truth that we have. That we will try, we will fail, and that with hope and love in our hearts, we may yet bring about a world that's just a little bit better, time and time again. But we must still act. Those reduced to LCO must find the ego to return to a more loving world, and those with ego must find a way to help make it better. It is a perfect metaphor for the paradox of will. We act on the natural world just as it acts on us, yet with our creativity, imagination, and dreams, every few millennia we find ourselves gaining a few more yards in the never-ending battle between humanity and a brutally indifferent world. In a few closing words, Evangelion Unit 1, the being containing Yui's soul, communicates with her son, telling him what may well be the most important fact of all, that as long as there is a will to live, anywhere can be paradise, because anywhere can hide a beautiful reality far beyond our dreams. We've just got to have the desire to find it. Despite the betrayal, and despite the isolation, and despite the cruel world, we just need to keep going, and damn it if you won't one day find it. Find that real purpose, that real happiness. Perhaps not in the form of a successful revolution or true emancipation, but instead in the strength to push your message just another generation forward. And perhaps not in the family, forgiveness, and love you so long for, at least not immediately, and not in the places you think, but a reason to go on equally strong. It's just around the corner. Opportunities for happiness are everywhere. All you have to do is hope. All you have to do is look, and all you have to do is keep living. The two have one final conversation where Shinji tells his mother that, despite not having a concrete answer on meaning, despite knowing he will be hurt again, he wants to stay. He will experience all the hardships of life just to avoid losing himself, let alone others, but he will stay. And in his resolve, he wonders his mother's purpose. We're shown in a flashback Yui's true goal with the Eva. We humans can find meaning as long as the earth, moon, and sun remain. As long as we have things to do, places to go, and people to see, we can find happiness. She plans to be living proof of that, so that even after 5 billion years, when we're nothing but a story, she will be evidence that life could find purpose in itself out of something so simple. A final testament to humanity's tenacity, creativity, and beauty.
太陽と月と地球がある限り大丈夫。
Just like that, Shinji is cast back into the real world. Not as substitute for reality, not his dream, but certainly not something beyond. He is yet to be happy. So he goes looking. Shinji chokes Asuka, the Eve to his Adam, the sharp red to his cool blue, because she isn't his at all, and he knows it. There are a million interpretations of this scene and a billion reasons why he may be doing it. Trauma, shame, fear, confusion. Hell, after what I just saw, I get it. But I think it comes down to something very simple. As metaphorical as it is real, Shinji simply wants to cut Asuka out of his life. The disgusting things he's done are his, and he cannot be forgiven, and he knows it. And so he wants to start anew, to rid himself of the girl who'd done nothing but hurt him and abandon him and refused to love him even when she herself wanted to. And in his trauma, shame, fear, and confusion, and in an adolescent misunderstanding, he sees no way out but murder. If he is to get better, to find the strength to improve the world as he so desires, he needs to rid his life of this great weight. And like the idiot he is, he sees no way out but through death. But Asuka is an evil person, and truly, neither is Shinji. They've both done wrong, especially to each other, especially now, but it was never out of hate or malintent or anything other than their terrible upbringings and cruel circumstance. Their worlds didn't make them do it, but they didn't do it without their worlds in mind. And so Asuka, having gone through instrumentality, having experienced her own ego death, and being one of just 2 people who had the will strong enough to form herself anew, realizes something as well. Whereas Shinji had taken Asuka's strength, her real strength, not her mask, to survive into a better world, Asuka takes another route. She takes her mother's love. She forgives Shinji for having not been genuine and apologizes for having pushed him. She sees his rage and anger and understands that it's not out of a hate of her, really, but of what she's done. She sees him for what he really is. So too, for the first time, does Shinji see Asuka. And he breaks down. A tired girl mentally tortured and literally murdered. In his weeping, he too apologizes for his desperation and counterfeit love. He knows now that she never really wanted to push him away, and God knows that he didn't really want to kill her. So for the first time, they are both seen. But Shinji also cries for another reason. The better reality he was supposed to fight for had been ruined by his misguided, selfish actions in its first minutes of existence. But the title of this scene is I Need You for a reason. What is misguided rage without the loving hand to correct it? And what is a masked ghost without a force to reveal its beauty? Shinji and Asuka are a microcosm of the human experience. Where Shinji is the merciless, terrible will to survive, Asuka is the hope of love which makes the whole thing worth fighting for. Together, they are honest. Opening themselves up to the world, Asuka in a sickening display of undeserved love, and Shinji in a destructive, unreserved will. The 2 irredeemable, disgusting humans which in some way represent us all, stay there. Forgiving and loving and surviving in spite of it all. Because as long as we have the earth, moon, and sun, we can find happiness. Nobody deserves love or forgiveness, and drowning yourself in fantasy will never make it so. But being true to yourself, being true to others, and doing the loving and forgiving for them, you may yet find happiness. Their deeds, our deeds, both evil and undeserved, are sickening. But that is the human experience. And that is okay.
気持ち悪い。
Me too.